back to the Football Tribe channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite sports update channel, on your favorite football update channel. It's a pleasure to be back. It's been a long Sunday, beautiful day or Sunday. I hope you had a wonderful Sunday. It's been a good one, quite rainy down in Kampala, where we're coming to you live from. But so causing a bit of a, a cold evening, but we will soldier on with it because everything else will be okay. So allow me to have our audios tested before we get into the thick of tonight's conversation, which I believe will be quite lengthy for as long as you can indulge me. Since we did not have a morning broadcast, on Sundays we do not have morning broadcasts, but should that change, trust me, I'll be here to let you know as well if any situation changes in regards to that. Like I said, there's plenty to talk about. For some reason, I do not know, but Arsenal have stolen the headlines this Sunday. They've made all the big news throughout the course of the day, given what they've been able to achieve or what they are trying to achieve, depending on how you assess things. Then, of course, we'll get to speak about Manchester United. A lot of frustration coming through from the Manchester United fan base, following in the wake of the updates coming in from Chelsea, from Arsenal, and all the other Premier League teams that are trying to make progress in as far as their transfer window pursuits go. So it has caused a little bit of a stir in the Manchester United fan base, but we'll be speaking about that and more again in today's broadcast. Then, okay, so there's a bit of a developing situation around Arsenal's pursuit for Viktor Gyokeres, and so if I tell you something and in the next minute you're seeing something else, then do not really be surprised, because it's a bit of a developing situation. Both parties are trying to really get things over the line and conclude deals tonight. So we'll be speaking about that situation and more. We'll be speaking about the frustration or anguish amongst Arsenal fans. Nene Jones, hi Nene Jones. How are you doing? Why are you joining us from Nene Jones? I kindly like the broadcast. Do me the absolute favor and like the broadcast. But thanks for joining us. Guys, do let me know down in the comment section where you're joining us from, so that I'll be reading your comments before we get started with my submission for tonight. Just do let me know down in the comment section, and I'll read every comment of yours. Sorry, I forgot to put my phone off, and it looks like people are trying to reach me, which is not good for as far as this ongoing broadcast is concerned. So, anyways, yes, guys, please like the broadcast, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to the channel and help support me on this journey of growth. So just click on that like button and also on the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Looks like some of my messages are being filtered out. I do not know to what extent. So okay, Avad Goda, is that how you pronounce your name? I have a question. Goda, hi Goda. Yes, go ahead with your question. It's all right. You can ask your question. Please feel free to ask your question. Just trying to make sure I don't miss any single one of your comments. But like I said, today's topics will revolve around Arsenal with Martin Zubimendi, Viktor Gyokeres Noni Madueke, and things of that nature. So please put your question forward, but also like the broadcast and consider subscribing if you're new here. I see a van. Oh, you're new here. Anyways, I'm waiting for the question. Others, please like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. Anyways, finally, at long last, the long-awaited day, finally, Arsenal formally announced the signing of Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad. are very, very interesting. By the way, we've already put out details about that deal right on the channel. That video did publish a couple of hours ago. Yeah, we did put that one out, so you can go ahead and check it out on the channel there. So we were speaking at great length about Martin Zubimendi and how the deal came to, to unfold, and how everything unfolded. But it's finally official. I know there's been an ongoing joke on Twitter that Arsenal have signed Martin Zubimendi 5 times, in January, in March, then in May, in June, and and then there's that speculation last summer, and then finally he's been unveiled as an Arsenal player. He will wear the shirt number 36. He's a 26-year-old Spanish international, as you already know, a very dynamic player. In my view, he can, while he predominantly plays as a number 6, he can also play as a number 8. Not the most athletic player in terms of pace, not the most physical player, but he is quite of he's quite of the intellect. He likes to, read the game, anticipate the game, be a bit ahead in reading the game. So he relies more on his sort of intelligence, as opposed to maybe he compensates for his lack of physique with more intelligence in the way he reads the game, the way he dictates the tempo of the game. And in fact, in Arsenal's unveiling video of him, they insinuated something of that regard by putting out, that musical where the tempo slows down and then it goes high up, because he is capable of doing all those things in a game when it comes to game management and everything within that line. So he's a very, very exciting signing, one that Arsenal have worked on for almost, I think, the longest in recent times, because while for many of you may think that it's a deal that they negotiated sometime maybe after January or so, no, it dates as far back as last summer, because that's when they started negotiations for Martin Zubimendi. Now, when they approached Real Sociedad to sign Mikel Merino, that's when they informed Real Sociedad that they will be interested in signing both players, that's Martin Zubimendi and Mikel Merino. However, because they already had Jorginho, Thomas Partey, and Declan Rice within their ranks, all who can play as central midfielders, they told Real Sociedad that they would prefer to sign Martin Zubimendi the subsequent summer. So they went on and had negotiations, fruitful negotiations, for Mikel Merino, who eventually joined Arsenal last summer. And then, that was Edu Gaspar Daoud alongside his deputy in Jason Aito, who were negotiating those deals. And eventually, what they managed to get Mikel Merino over the line. And while Martin Zubimendi had almost joined Liverpool, he chose to stay at Real Sociedad, where he had played for about 14 years already, and then he decided to stay for another 15th year. Having been an academy graduate there, he did play for the Real Sociedad B team, was once managed by his idol, Xabi Alonso. So in that kind of composition. So that's when Arsenal first told Real Sociedad that they were interested in signing Martin Zubimendi. Then, of course, but the deal wasn't done. Arsenal lived sort of in fear when Manchester City lost Rodri. Blue Dude, hi Blue Dude, welcome to the channel. So when Manchester City lost Rodri to that anterior cruciate ligament injury, Arsenal sort of was a bit nervous that maybe Pep Guardiola could try and make a move to sign Martin Zubimendi. I got to what for you? Free what? What's that? Freedom? Okay. Thank you. Who? Thank you. Please like the broadcast. But thank you for joining us. So they lived in fear that perhaps, Pep Guardiola was going to go and try and sign him, because he is one of the managers that always fancied Martin Zubimendi. Then fast forward, we started hearing rumors that Real Madrid were destined to part ways with Carlo Ancelotti, and that Xabi Alonso, his idol and then former manager at Real Sociedad B, was going to be the next head coach at Real Madrid. And then we knew Real Madrid had interest in signing Martin Zubimendi. So Arsenal lived in that sort of fear that maybe, just maybe, excuse me, that just maybe Xabi Alonso could woo him away from under their hands and take him to Real Madrid. But while Real Madrid had some form of interest, they never firmed that up by approaching Real Sociedad for his signature. So Arsenal, in principle, they negotiated and concluded the deal in March. Now, by the time, remember, that's the same month in which Arsenal formally announced the arrival of Andrea Bata as the new sporting director. So, yeah, did Andrea Bata have a hand to do with it? Yes, but a majority of the work had already been done by Edu Gaspar Daud and Jason Aito. Remember, Jason Aito also acted as an interim sporting director during the January transfer window of Bates. Arsenal didn't sign anyone because Edu Gaspar Daud had already left the club. So there you have it, Arsenal fans. Martin Zubimendi is officially and formally an Arsenal player. So quite really, I think maybe, I do not know if Arsenal fans are as excited as I think they ought to be, but because the deal had been agreed, a bit of a long time ago, even though they lived in anxiety, I do not think they've been as excited as they would have been if it was a snap, negotiation during the course of just the summer. But there you have it, Arsenal fans. Martin Zubimendi is officially at home at the Emirates, and tomorrow he will be starting pre-season with the rest of the squad as they return from their summer break or end of season break. So after putting pen to paper, here is what he had to say. He said, "I set my sights on Arsenal because their style of play is a good fit for me. They have shown their potential recently, and the best is yet to come. This is a huge moment in my career. It's the move I was looking for and one I wanted to make. As soon as you set foot here, you realize how big this club and this team are." So those were some of the words from Martin Zubimendi after signing as an Arsenal player. He did say, he went on to say his English is not at the very best, but he did say he's looking forward to to feeling the environment within the Emirates Stadium when he gets to play there. Because he answered a majority of his interview questions in Spanish and they were translated, but one of the final bits of the questions, actually it was a message to the Arsenal fans. He put that in English and he said he was excited to be at Arsenal. So that deal is done. So quickly, Segun. Hi Segun. Segun Oloyeni. Why does your name sound Nigerian? Are you from Nigeria, Segun? Anyways, welcome to the Footballtribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. I kindly like the broadcast, but seeing that you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel and help me on this growth journey. So quickly, again, we remain at Arsenal and now move on to Viktor Gyokeres because it was a media sort of frenzy as it got broken to us that Arsenal had reached an agreement on personal terms with Viktor Gyokeres, and the talks were advancing to sign the 27-year-old Swedish striker from Sporting Lisbon. Now, he is a player that we've spoken about widely in comparison, also in a similar line of strength with Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig. That's the 22-year-old Slovenian international, as Arsenal were considering both as targets for their striker, filling that void. So their primary target was Benjamin Sesko, but we do know now for a fact that they were off-put by RB Leipzig's unwillingness to budge on their asking price of 90 million euros, according to the latest reports, that they are unwilling to negotiate on that fee. Where are you from, brother? I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. But welcome to the channel. That question coming in from Vishal Gavandi. I think, Vishal, are you from India? Your name sounds as though it is from India, but welcome to the Footballtribe YouTube channel. please consider liking the broadcast, but also subscribing to the channel and help support me go on this path. So because Arsenal sort of took a couple of steps back on that Benjamin Sesko deal after. Yes, I like Indian song. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Team India. Indians have been quite very kind to me on this channel. But so Arsenal took a couple of steps back and sort of focused their attention on Viktor Gyokeres. It's something that I told you about towards the tail end of this week, that Arsenal had sort of shifted their stance on Benjamin Sesko, that probably they had pulled down their interest because RB Leipzig were unwilling to sort of negotiate, lesser terms on a transfer fee for the player, and that the player wasn't trying to force a move away from RB Leipzig because they do have a very good relationship. While on the other side, Viktor Gyokeres is desperate to leave Sporting Lisbon. He has informed the club he won't be returning for tomorrow. That's July the 7th, when their pre-season kicks off, because the club had sort of violated their gentleman's agreement, which in principle was that he would be allowed to leave for 65 million euros plus 5 million euros in add-ons if that kind of offer came for him. And then Sporting went back on their word and changed that to 80 million euros. And that is their stance as we speak. They are telling Arsenal it's 80 million euros or nothing, while Arsenal are reluctant. It's not that they are not willing, but are reluctant to offer anything above 70 million euros. So it is all in line with that. So David Austin broke the news saying earlier on that Arsenal are in advanced talks with Sporting Lisbon over a deal to sign Viktor Gyokeres. Transfer fee discussions continue, but personal terms in place on a 5-year contract. A 27-year-old Sporting striker only wants Arsenal, Arteta pushing for swift conclusion on the deal. Now, it's also reported that Mikel Arteta had a phone call conversation with the Swedish striker and spoke to him about his vision for him and how it does fit within the Arsenal mold in this. Is it still a project? Okay, in this Arsenal project that is yet to bear fruit for the last 5 years. So there's been that really, so which is quite interesting. And then of course, like I said, things that moved a bit thick and fast because we've been getting snippets of updates here and there regarding Viktor Gyokeres and how he had told all potential suitors that his move or his preference would be to join Arsenal or nothing. Now, according to Sebastian Vidal, he does say that Arsenal only has to conclude an offer of 70 million euros plus 10 million euros in bonuses will be acceptable to Sporting Lisbon. I can see Prissy Nkosi is finally back with us. Good evening. Hope you're happy, Arsenal family. Arsenal finally making a big move for a striker. Yes, and yeah, I'll say I'm happy, but I'll say the larger community is happy. However, I'll be telling you about sort of the difference in opinion among these Arsenal fans, and I do not know. I get the feeling that Arsenal fans come as complicated as you can have football fans really in instance. But Pressing Kosi, I hope you've been doing well. We have missed you for the last couple of days, if not almost a week. So I hope you're all right down in South Africa. So anyways, so the situation with Viktor Gyokeres is that Arsenal only want to offer 70 million euros. That's about 65 plus, 5 million euros in expected add-ons, in achievable add-ons, while Sporting want up to 80. So that's according to Sebastian Vidal as revealed. Then according to Ben Jacobs, he did say that the clubs are discussing an initial 65 million euro fee plus add-ons structure is going to prove important. Sporting want the add-ons to be achievable and a higher guaranteed payment. Now, when it comes remember, I've told you during the course of this summer that when it comes to player negotiations during transfers, that there are two critical things. Okay, not just two, but there's a couple of critical things. Usually in the approach, first of all, a club that wants to buy oftentimes approaches the player's agents or player's representatives or the player and sort of probe whether the player would be willing to join the club that wants to buy. So if they get a good signal on that side, then they move on to try and begin speaking about potential personal terms and how lengthy a contract would be in that kind of sense. So then when it goes to club talks, they discuss over a potential transfer fee. But once they arrive at a final figure, whether it is 70 million pounds, whatever the add-ons could be, the most critical step is the payment structure. We have what in that payment you have what you have as guaranteed fees, which is the actual transfer fee, let's say 70 million pounds, and then the add-ons, which could be 5, which could be 10 million pounds, depending on who you're buying and from where. So now, usually, those 70 million pounds are not payable in one full go, So because clubs tend to want to pay them in installments, those usually are the payment terms that they get to discuss. And sometimes deals tend to break at that stage because clubs can't reach on an agreement on payment terms, because maybe the selling club is saying, give us 40 million pounds upfront and then you pay the other 30 in 2 installments or in another installment, while the buying club is saying we can only pay you 25 and then the other 45 will come in 3 installments, in that kind of structure. So usually deals sometimes can break at that stage. Pressing Kosi says, what's the matter? You prefer Sesko over Gyokeres? Is Madueke a good signing for Arsenal? Again, we're going to be speaking about Noni Madueke in just a bit. But so anyways, talks between the two clubs are at that stage. And because Viktor Gyokeres has expressed a strong willingness to join Arsenal, I think that's why they are equally trying to push the deal. According to the Mirror this week, they did report that Mikel Arteta had set an ultimatum of about 2 weeks for the club to conclude on a deal for a striker, because he wants him as soon as possible to have him integrated with the squad during the course of preseason and assess his situation. Now, this is still according to Fabrizio Romano, who says that Viktor Gyokeres has accepted to give up 2 million euros from his salary in order to facilitate negotiations between Arsenal and Sporting. Sporting are insisting on a higher fee compared to what Arsenal have offered, but Gyokeres is trying his best to make it happen. So there you have it. Now, to go back to Prince Nkosi's comment, asking what's the matter. I was speaking about Arsenal fans being sort of divisive or being as if they don't know what they like. Now, this is what happened. We started the summer because Arsenal had a history of approaching Benjamin Sesko, which started last summer. They wanted to sign him last summer. They couldn't get a deal, and the player ended up signing a new contract and stayed at RB Leipzig to continue his development. Then they went back in January to try and sign him. RB Leipzig were unwilling to do a deal in January because they were fighting still to try and qualify for European places, which eventually they did not for the first time since, I think, 2016-2017 season. So then comes this summer. So the expectation was, because they had prior negotiations over personal terms at club level, that it would be an easy deal to do. But when he signed a new contract, apparently there was a release clause inserted in. However, that release clause was a bit fluid because it was based, I think, on achievables and timelines. So that's why you're hearing that RB Leipzig are asking for a higher fee. Now, when Andre Bata comes in as Arsenal's new sporting director, because remember, he is replacing Edu Gaspar Dawood, who had those negotiations last summer, and then you have Jason Aito, who was the interim, sporting director, having been Edu's deputy, who had tried to negotiate during January, and this time around he has equally left the club this summer. Now, when Andre Bata comes in, his preference for Arsenal for a striker was Viktor Gyokeres. That's his preference. So they get to have the engagement with the concerned parties. In this case, I mean Mikel Arteta, the analytics team, the head of recruitment. That's James Ellis, who has now been promoted to technical director. So, and that kind of thing. So they agreed, I think, within them, or at least according to Andre Bata's modus operandi, is to attack on all fronts. So they went into negotiations for Benjamin Sesko while also pushing for Viktor Gyokeres on the side. Now, when it was proved that RB Leipzig were unwilling to negotiate further down on a fee of 90 million euros, is why Arsenal pivoted on Viktor Gyokeres. Now, of course, we've since made arguments for either of them who did choose an etc. etc. Now, some Arsenal fans have come out to express their view that they would prefer Benjamin Sesko, and they're within their right to make that assessment. While others are for Viktor Gyokeres because they believe he's a more ready product as compared to Benjamin Sesko, who is still well under, well within his developing stage and that kind of thing. So regardless of the arguments you make for one or the other, the number one priority, or what cannot be debated, is Arsenal's need for a striker. So then it goes to who that is. And among the top strikers you have today in Europe is Viktor Gyokeres, of course, Benjamin Sesko, who I wouldn't put, I don't think I would put him in the top 5. I'm not sure, because for some reason, from what, not based on what I've seen, but based on what the numbers show, I think I'll even put Hugo Ekitike ahead of him a bit. And then you have the likes of, Victor Osimhen, who has been a hot cake. Then, of course, Dusan Vlahovic, by the way, scored 17 goals, I think, last campaign. And not the best of numbers, but, the broad Erling Haalands, the Kylian Mbappe's, the Robert Lewandowski's. So he wouldn't be in the top 5, really, in Benjamin Sesko. While Viktor Gyokeres, without doubt, possibly the best striker in Europe last season. So now some Arsenal fans are coming out to say, no, we would prefer Benjamin Sesko. All Arsenal want is a striker. It's that simple. Whoever they choose is who you should support, for as long as you pay allegiance to the club. You do not have to agree with their decisions. You just have to support what decisions have been made, whether you agree with them or disagree with them. Because at the end of the day, it's not like when you're watching the game, you're going to support Martin Odegaard and not support Viktor Gyokeres, while you're trying to tell Martin Odegaard to play the pass to the striker. So they do not work in isolation. So that would be my view. So that is always bound to happen. I think everyone has their reasons for preferring whichever striker they do prefer. But at the end of the day, it's without question that Arsenal do need a striker, and they are really, really closing to getting Viktor Gyokeres, and the player is really, really pushing to have that deal done as soon as possible. In fact, I was watching a clip by Fabrizio Romano, and he mentioned that apparently Viktor Gyokeres was constantly checking with his agents or agency to check on whether an agreement had been reached, because he can't wait to hear that he's been allowed to travel to do his medicals with Arsenal and formally join. Anyways, so we will leave that at that, but that's the update on Benjamin Sesko. Personal terms have already agreed upon on a 5-year contract for the 27-year-old. I mean, last season he scored 39 goals in 33 league games. He provided, I think, 9 assists. Was it? No, I think 8 or 7. I think 7 assists, giving him a goal involvement of up to 46 in those 33 appearances. While the season prior to that, he had made 10 assists, scored 29 goals in 33 games. So really, his numbers are not in question. Then in the UEFA Champions League, he played 8 games, scored 6 goals, and provided 1 assist. Again, a good return. Now, of course, the debates of it being a lesser league in the Portuguese league, those can hold water. But I mean, on any given day, you can sign a top player and they do not work out. We've seen that. We've seen players come from top leagues and they fail to work out at different teams. So it's not really in isolation. For example, I know I've used this example before. I think it was Claudio Pizarro who joined Chelsea back in 2007 from Bayern Munich, and it did not work out. He ended up going back to going on loan to Werder Bremen, and it worked out, and he ended up signing for them permanently before making a return to Bayern Munich. So, I mean, we've seen those kinds of things. For some of you do remember Skamaka, who joined West Ham. I think that was over, 2 seasons ago. He was really smashing it in Italy, and then he joins West Ham, and he didn't really cut it. So he didn't work out for him, and he ended up returning, back to Italy. So it can happen, really. It can really happen. Look at Dusan Vlahovic. He was hitting astronomical numbers at Fiorentina, went to Juventus, and somehow things didn't. He did not become a better player than he was at Fiorentina. In any case, you could argue that he regressed a bit. So those things can happen with anyone. So even if you are told yourself you're signing a sure win, but in terms of development, we can all agree that Viktor Gyokeres is more developed as compared to Benjamin Sesko. Viktor Gyokeres has played in England before. He played for Swansea. He played for Brighton and Hove Albion. Many of us had not even noticed that at some point. He did play for Swansea on loan. He played at Coventry before joining Sporting Lisbon. So really, that's the situation on that. Anyways, let's move on and go to Noni Madueke. Now, Noni Madueke is another name that has sort of split the Arsenal fan base. Unfortunately, and I've said this before, because earlier today I recorded a video about Noni Madueke entirely. Noni Madueke was speaking about Noni Madueke, and that video should be publishing tomorrow in the morning, probably at 9 or 10 a.m. It should be premiering tomorrow. About Noni Madueke. Only 23 years of age, joined Chelsea, I think, in January 2023. Has so far played 67 Premier League games and scored 13 goals, provided 5 assists. Now, here's what I'm going to say. Of course, from people are looking at this from different angles. One, the optics. From the optics, I can say it doesn't look good. I mean, Arsenal signing another Chelsea player sounds more like an obsession, really, and considering the kinds of players that have been Arsenal from Chelsea in recent years. But the two clubs just have a good relationship. That's just the way it is. So then, too, the other issue is, which I think is sort of wrong to look at it that way, is people are looking at where the player is coming from as opposed to who the player is and what he is capable of playing of sort of offering to Arsenal. Because I've said this in that video, which will be coming out tomorrow. Apologies that I'm even preempting myself on here. But anyway, I'll beg that you go watch that video once it premieres tomorrow. Just turn on your notifications. So I made the submission that we should be more concerned about what the player is capable of giving than where he is from. And I go on to cite examples like we are excited about the signing of Fabio Vieira from FC Porto. Did it work out? It did not. We are excited about the signing of Albert Sambi-Lokonga from the Belgium League at the recommendation of Thierry Henry. Did it work out? We can say it did not work out because he's gone on loan to Luton Town, to Sevilla, and he's yet to find his footing. In fact, his contract was ending, and Arsenal exercised their option to extend it for a further year so that they do not lose him for free. So there's that. Two, so I do not want us to be blindfolded by the bias that we have about signing us Chelsea players and not assess the player himself on his qualities. When I look at his profile, first of all, he knows that he is coming as a backup to Bukayo Saka, which he is willing to come for. He's a left-footed winger, 23 years of age. And like I said, his numbers, as far as the Premier League is concerned, are far from convincing. But when you look at them in isolation, in terms of progress from one season to another, there's been signs of progress, as slow as that progress has been. But there's been signs of progress. And then there's one thing I always stick upon, or that I will always mention, is that we who look at these players from the outside is we think we assess them more than the clubs that are signing them. That's what we think. Because we look at a couple of statistics there, maybe we get the opportunity to watch them every week and watch them and maybe enjoy them or not enjoy them. we easily draw to conclusions and suddenly think that maybe the team that is trying to sign the player do not want to succeed in one way, that they do not want the best. I'm sure, and this I would bet my hand on, is that Noni Madueke was not the first priority for Arsenal in regards to a Bukayo Saka backup. Now, for those of you that have followed Arsenal for quite a bit, or those that are fans or otherwise, you must have heard Arsenal fans requesting or asking for a backup for Bukayo Saka because he's played so many games over the last course of 5 years or so. Now, last season, it ended up with him suffering a hamstring injury that kept him out of action for up to 3 months. Now, again, we spoke to that saying they need a backup for Bukayo Saka to reduce the amount of game time that he has so that he gets a bit more rest. Now, Arsenal came into this summer well knowing that they need to find a player as a good backup for Bukayo Saka to limit his number of minutes so that he continues to recover fully from that injury, because there was risk of a setback. Fortunately for Arsenal, it did not happen. So, and you never know, because that was his first very long-term injury. You never know how it's going to impact him going forward, whether he will start being in and out of the sick bay. So they need a backup. And when they made their assessment, I'm sure one of the names was Noni Madueke. He may not have been the first priority, but he was on that shortlist. And then the business or the finances come in to say, okay, this will be our preferred choice. One, are they willing to come or they are not willing to come? If they are willing to come, can we afford them at the fee we think we are willing to spend during the course of this summer, vis-a-vis while spending on all the other priority positions that we ought to fill in the squad and get what we want? Maybe yes, maybe not. So usually there's a number of factors that come at play. We've just spoken about the Benjamin Sesko versus Gyokeres thing. It has boiled down to finances that are involved at this stage. So we cannot debate that in isolation. Then the other thing that I've been imploring Arsenal fans who are object to the idea of Noni Madueke, the question to them is, who are the alternatives that you would be considering, in your opinion, as backups for Bukayo Saka? Now, some have alleged or have gone on to mention Ethan Nwaneri, who is a left-footed player. Now, in Arsenal's perspective, they want Ethan Nwaneri to, one, to stay, two, he's still under contract renewal negotiations, and apparently he wants guaranteed playing time as though he's the Lamine Yamal of Arsenal, which he's not, in my opinion. Is he a good player? Without doubt. There's no questions or quarrels about that. But we cannot sit here and guarantee him playing time as though he is within the same level of the Bakolas who are not even getting everyday time. Desile Doué or Lamine Yamal, who are players within the same age bracket. Lamine is 17, Desile Doué is 19, Bakola is 22, and that kind of thing. So, so I was telling the Arsenal fans that let no player hold the club at ransom, because at the end of the day, there's no player bigger than the club. Whether he's exceptionally talented, at the end of the day, I do not think Arsenal are going to be bamboozled in giving him a contract that they don't think he deserves or that they cannot guarantee on. Because sometimes when it comes to guaranteed playing time, it has a financial impact that if he does not play this number of minutes, then maybe... Now, the good thing is that then the other reason is that the player should want to stay. Now, the good thing from what we are getting, according to the Athletic, Ethan Nwaneri wants to stay and continue his development, but Chelsea is one of the clubs that have made inquiries about the availability of Ethan Nwaneri and continue to monitor his contract situation with Arsenal, among a whole host of other European clubs that are interested in the 18-year-old England forward. He's been with the England under-21 during the Euros. So that situation is at that. But at the end of the day, Arsenal view him as a more central player as opposed to him being on the wing. They look at him as a Martin Odegaard kind of, player, attacking midfield from the central as opposed from being to the wings. Now, of course, last season he got to play off the wings because of Bukayo Saka's injuries, and then when Martin Odegaard wasn't delivering or when he was out from injury, we were calling for him to have more game time. Yes, he had the game time. I think more than most 18-year-olds, even because at the time he was 17, I think, than most 17-year-olds get at certain clubs. Two, it's not like he flourished in every game. Let's be honest with that. I cite a game against Newcastle where he played a good, I think, more than 60 minutes, and it just didn't work out. He sort of struggled to break through that wall of Newcastle, that low block, and Arsenal are trying to look for players in this transfer window that can, break those low blocks. And Eberechi is one of those being considered. So those opposed to Noni Madueke, one should tell us what the alternatives for Arsenal are out in the market as opposed to internally, because as far as they are concerned internally, Ethan Nwaneri is either not enough or they view his development in a more different position. That's two. Then they should tell us whether we should give up on the idea, whether Arsenal should give up on the idea entirely of getting a backup for Bukayo Saka, who they themselves have been saying that they need a backup for, and now they are trying to get Noni Madueke, who has been a starter at Chelsea, to come in, because Chelsea, the challenge for Chelsea is that they have about 15 attacking players or players in their forward positions, and when you look at that chart, I'm trying to source for all those names because they're quite plenty. You have Pedro Neto, you have Noni Madueke, William Estaval, who is joining from Palmeiras because they signed him last summer and left him out on loan. They have João Felix, you have Raheem Sterling, you have Tariq George, you have Mukalo Mudrik, you have Jamie Gittens, who is just joining from Borussia Dortmund, you have Nicholas Jackson, Liam Delap, you have Chukwu Emeka, you have Christopher Nkunku, you have Liam, you have João Pedro, who is just joining, you have Mark Gui, you have Amadou Broja. This one was where? Was he at Everton last season on loan? So, of course, they want to let go of some of those. The likes of, do not be surprised if João Felix ends up back at Benfica, at least on loan, maybe with an option to buy, because Bruno Lage is at Benfica, and he was the manager, I think, at the time when João Felix was developing there before he joined Atletico de Madrid. And then you have players like Raheem Sterling, who they want to move on. You have players like Mukalo Mudrik, who is facing, charges from the FA for the violation of anti-doping rules, and we do not know what is going to happen with that one. But they've since taken away the shirt number 10 from him. And then you do have Tariq George, who has been playing almost every game in the UEFA Conference League and has been developing well. Then Chukwuemeka, we do not know what will happen with him. We know Christopher Nkunku is on the market, like they put him out there to be sold. And Manchester United are among those apparently reported with interest for him, and is valued at about £35 million. Previously, Bayern Munich were interested, but they did not firm up their interest with the bid. So when you look at overall, when you look at Chelsea's numbers, I do not think, even if he chooses to stay at Chelsea, that's Noni Madueke, he would start ahead of William Estaval based on what we've seen of William Estaval during the course of the FIFA Club World Cup. So that puts him behind the pecking order. I do not think he will start ahead of Pedro Neto, because Pedro Neto has continued to be more clinical in his scoring, of course, during the FIFA Club World Cup. So they start as well. So while Chelsea are not desperate to sell Noni Madueke, they are willing to listen to offers. Apparently, and this is according to some sources, that Chelsea put it out there that if there was a good offer for Noni Madueke, they would be willing to let him go. And once Arsenal had that, they sort of came running and said, okay, because possibly he was part of already on their shortlist, so they assessed the situation, and they said, okay, let's make an approach. They made an approach to the player. the player showed a willingness to join. He has since agreed on personal terms on a 5-year contract, and now the talks are at club level. And now, during the club-to-club talks, this is according to the hand of Arsenal on X. He says that, or they do report that during the course of negotiations between Chelsea and Arsenal for Noni Madueke, Chelsea made inquiries about Ethan Nwaneri. Then they also made whether the deal could involve Max Downs. Now, we all know that's the 15-year-old, as academy player that everybody's sort of been gushing or blushing about. Arsenal are really, really excited. He's a marquee player within that academy, and Mikel Arteta already revealed at the tail end of last season that he will be joining the senior team for their pre-season camp or preparation. So, because they're really, really excited. But knowing how I know Arsenal, I won't be surprised if before the start of the season or before the close of the summer transfer window, they send him out on loan, maybe in the Championship, maybe at a club close within London, to have him, to guarantee him more playing time so that he can continue to do well. Because he's a very, very exciting player at the age of 15, really. I've had the opportunity to watch clips and glimpses of him, and he's really, really exciting. As Cedric does join us once again. Good evening, friend. Sorry for being late. It's okay. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. Hope you had a blessed Sunday. Indeed, I had one. I hope you had a great one too. Cedric is an Athletic Bilbao fan, also an Arsenal fan, and he joins us from France. He has roots connecting him back to the Basque region in Spain. So it's a pleasure to have him. I will be interested in hearing his thoughts. One on Nico Williams' extended deal, which is essentially up to 2035. I do not know how they managed to convince him to put pen to paper to a 10-year contract, which some said was 8, but it's a 10-year contract. Two, of course, the increase in release clause, that makes it difficult, and for any potential suitors, because suitors were reluctant to pay, not to pay his release clause, but his wages. But now his wages have further gone up with that new contract, with an increased release clause of about 95 to 100 million euros. So then also, Cedric, give us your sentiments about one, the coming of Martin Zubimendi, because you're from the Basque region in Spain. You can tell us more about Martin Zubimendi as a player. Then two, the other is your views on Arsenal possibly signing Noni Madueke as well as Viktor Gyokeres. Those would be my requests to you. If you can put them in 5 comments, I wouldn't mind reading them. If it's summarized in 1 comment, well and good. Whatever is you're comfortable with. So anyways, guys, that's my take about Noni Madueke and the possibility of him joining Arsenal. My only sort of feeling, or my only caution in this particular case would be that for as long as he doesn't cost much more, because the valuation of players is quite critical, because you do not want to overpay, especially when you have other priorities in the squad to fill, because we all know Arsenal terminated Takahiro Tomiyasu's contract. It only had 1 year left to it, although it had an option to extend for a further year because of his injury problems. I think Arsenal, and again, people were asking me about that situation. Of course, I said Arsenal are losing arguably the best defender they had in terms of being comfortable playing across the entire 4 positions in that back 4: left back, right back, right centre back, left centre back. He was really, really comfortable and good. But unfortunately, he's another player that Arsenal have been robbed of because of injuries. It reminds of Jack Wilshere, Vasil Abdiaby at Arsenal, players that are very good players that have been robbed of their careers because of injuries. For when you go to teams like Manchester United, they will tell you that we've not gotten the best out of Luke Shaw because of injuries. We did not get the best out of Owen Hargreaves because of injuries. We've not gotten the best out of Mason Mount because of injuries in the first 2 years of his career at Manchester United. Amadou Diallo, the other candidate with injuries. They've Man United are yet to see the very best of him because of injuries. Taylor Maracia, I mean, he struggled with injuries at Man United. So unfortunately, these things tend to happen when it comes to players and injuries when they do sign for different clubs. So, anyways, so Arsenal will be looking to find a replacement for Takahiro Tomiyasu. Maybe the pursuit of Christian Mosquera is viewed in that angle, or maybe it will be a different situation. Maybe they get to firm up their interest in Jorel Hato from Ajax. We'll wait to see how they do assess that situation further. But we do know that they want to sign a striker and they're pursuing Viktor Gyokeres. They want to sign Ebeleche Eze. Now that's quite different from their pursuit of Noni Madueke, as well as their pursuit for Rodrigo Goes. So that has been, brought to light according to the Athletic. Cedric says, I'm not as expert as you, so I'll share about the culture side. Zubimendi means literally the mountain of the bridge. Okay, mountain of the bridge, typical Basque name. Real Sociedad is in the province of Navarra, which is less. Okay, thank you for that, for painting for us an even better picture of our understanding of the Basque region. You add on to say, speaking Basque and arrival to Bilbao. Okay, and arrival to Bilbao. So no one. So on one side, I regret he doesn't stay in Basque county or country. Anyways, okay. So, but I think Arsenal fans have everything to be excited about. On the other hand, our players need to seek careers that meet their capacities or capabilities. Yeah, and that I certainly do agree with you. So, anyways, guys, that's the situation around Arsenal. I think we've exhausted it all. If there's anything you feel that I've left out, feel free to put down the question or the comment down in the comment section, and we'll discuss it further, or I'll further give you my assessment of the situation. Arsenal is a great choice, and Arteta himself is a Basque too. Yeah, indeed. And excuse me. And when I was speaking about that situation in my earlier video, for those of you that have managed to go to the channel and watch it, where I think the headline should be something like, yes, Martin Zubimendi finally unveiled. And then I would also discuss, Viktor Gyokeres in that same video. I said that Mikel Arteta was critical or key in getting that deal over the line for Martin Zubimendi. He must have had a bit of an influence on him. Then he spoke about, by the way, his best player, Spanish player, is Xabi Alonso. Best Spanish Arsenal player, Cesc Fabregas. Then who else did he talk about? Yeah, then of course he spoke about his relationship with Mikel Merino, and then how he enjoyed playing alongside Martin Odegaard when he was on loan from Real Madrid to Real Sociedad. For those of you that do not follow Spanish football so much, Martin Zubimendi was playing for Real Sociedad. Alongside Mikel Merino, he did play with Alexander Isak, with Martin Odegaard at some point. Of course, the likes of Take Fusakubo did play. I think Take Fusakubo also played for Real Mallorca. So he was at Real Madrid. That's Castilla. That's a very, very interesting Japanese player, by the way, Take Fusakubo. There, among the others. Then the other is I'm forgetting his name. Is it Oyazabal? Yes, Oyazabal. So, anyways, that's the situation with Arsenal. So quickly, let's run to Manchester United, because I promised you we would speak about Manchester United. You say, I can't say he was influenced by his roots, picking up maybe unconsciously his countryman. Okay, we'll take that. So meanwhile, in the wake of all that Arsenal news, a lot of Manchester United fans have been in disarray on in sort of expressing their bit of frustrations online. Like I've told you guys before, I do follow different fan forums or different commentary in regards to fans and things of that nature. And Manchester United fans are in disarray, but more in disappointment. So, and I get the feeling that they're really, really valid. But like I've also said before, usually transfers are not as simple as certain clubs make them feel. Because when Chelsea are signing players, they make you feel that like it's like walking into going to a shop and you ask how much is that how much is that t-shirt, and they tell you it's maybe $10, and you'll be like no, I'm willing to pay 7, and then you go back and forth until you reach 8.5. It's not that simple. So they are feeling frustrated that with their preseason set to kick off tomorrow, one, they've not moved on all the players they want to move on. Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho, Antony, Tyler Maracia, the likes of Luke Shaw, maybe Rasmus Højlund, maybe Andre Onana, etc., etc. They've not been able to make a player sale. But also, their incomings, they've only managed to bring in Matthias Cunha. And literally, they feel they are taking ages to negotiate a deal for Granny Bomo, for whom we know that their second bid, which was about worth £55 million of guaranteed fees and £7.5 million in expected add-ons, was turned down by Brentford. So there's a feeling of frustration among Manchester United fans. If any team in the Premier League, amongst the traditional Big Four or Big Six, as you want, as they've been expanded over the last couple of years, if any team needed a serious rebuild, maybe, just maybe, Manchester United is that team. And Mariam Nalman says, hello, Liverpool fans. Hello, Mariam. Good to have you on the podcast. It's a pleasure to see you today. Anyways, so if anyone needed a rebuild, then Manchester United needed it more than anybody else. But let's not forget, Tottenham are within the same bracket in there. But of course, we know Tottenham suffered so many injuries last season that really, really cost them. But that notwithstanding, at least they brought in a new manager. They're trying to sign players. They are pursuing Mohamed Kudus, who is also of interest to Chelsea. Again, I keep making the question, if Chelsea signed Mohamed Kudus, where is he going to play? And if you're Mohamed Kudus, why would you go to Chelsea unless it was other than financial motivation, or you had this long unfulfilled ambition or long dream to play for Chelsea? Because we've just listed, they have 15 players within their ranks in those attacking positions. Why are you going to play? If, unless you're saying you're going to be better than all those that they have, which I certainly do not think you're going to be. So it begs that question. And then, so with Viktor Gyokeres destined for an Arsenal move, Manchester United fans are saying they could end up with their C and D options in the transfer window. Because remember, their primary target for a striker was Liam Delap. And now Liam Delap joined Chelsea, as we already know. Then they switched their attention to Viktor Gyokeres. Of course, the relationship of Ruben Amorim with Sandy. And it looks like the Swedish international wants to join Arsenal over Man United. Then they mentioned Hugo Ekitike, who I do not think they will be willing to pay. They're asking 100 million euros to Eintracht Frankfurt. But remember, Liverpool are also interested in Hugo Ekitike. Maybe they end up going for Dusan Vlahovic because he's been mentioned in recent times. Then they've been linked with the potential move for Victor Osimhen, who Galatasaray are still really, really keen on. Juventus are also keen, but Juventus have managed to get Jonathan David. Remember, they also have Rando Kolo Muani as well as Dusan Vlahovic still on their books, although they are trying to move on Dusan Vlahovic. So that makes me feel that they won't be making a move suddenly for Victor Osimhen. So, Cedric, you say, oh, you're saying hello to Mariam. I go to see. Yes, Mariam is a Liverpool fan, an ardent Liverpool fan, I must mention. The other ardent Liverpool fan is by the way, Pressing Kosi, Cedric. Then the other Liverpool fan, I do not think is with us here today, but is Amlen or Koyo Amlen. He does, is another regular or semi-regular, but a very regular person on the channel. Anyways, so Man United fans are feeling that the club is being slow Jason Wilcox and whoever else is involved in the transfer business at Manchester United in terms of moving on players and bringing in players is really, really being slow, and that they are being unjust to their manager, who suddenly has this group of players who he does not even want them to return to the club and be part of his pre-season plans. That group of 5 players that we've mentioned, because they've all since requested to leave the club, and he's not getting the incomings to try and integrate them into his system early enough. So, one, I would say to Manchester United fans, I do understand your frustration, and I sort of share similar sentiments, but also I'll say be a little bit patient, because for as long as Man United are going to have it hard to move on players, bringing in players will even be harder, because part of what guarantees their moves for certain players is hinged on the movement of other players. Take an example. Manchester United fans, you all, okay, maybe not all of you, but many of you, and I think I would suffice if I said majority of you would say Onana is not cutting it and you would want a replacement for him. But for you to bring in a goalkeeper, it means, taking Onana off your hands first. And Monaco, who initially were reported with interest, have since sort of cooled down that interest in the 29-year-old Cameroon goalkeeper. Then you do have a situation with Anthony, where he wants to return to Real Betis. I do not think Real Betis have the financial resources to guarantee a permanent transfer as United would love. And then there's an issue with the player's wages. Remember when he went to Real Betis, I think Real Betis were paying part of his wages and Man United were paying a part of that. Then you have Marcus Rashford, who apparently would prefer a move away from the Premier League entirely. And according to latest reports, is that Barcelona made a return to explore a deal for Marcus Rashford because Liverpool already turned them down in their pursuit for Luis Diaz, and we all know what has happened with Nico Williams, with him renewing that contract at Athletic Bilbao until June 2035. So, and this is according to Sky German, or Sky Germany's Florian Klettenberg, who said, I understand Barcelona want to try again for Marcus Rashford. A move for Luis Diaz is currently very unlikely. So Barcelona have reopened talks with Rashford. The 27-year-old winger is set to leave Manchester United, where he is under contract until June 2028. That means Rashford has many inquiries, and Barcelona are one of them. So again, this is a deal that we've spoken about before when we were discussing about Barcelona's pursuits for a winger, and among those was Luis Diaz, of course Nico Williams, and now Marcus Rashford. So those are the names we've had, and the other 2 options are off the list for Barcelona now. So let's wait and see. Then remember, Man United is asking price for Marcus Rashford is £40 million. Then I do not think that Barcelona would be reluctant to pay that, but then it would have to hinge upon the payment structure for that transfer fee if it were to be realized. If the terms being offered would be agreeable or to Manchester United, then a deal would be done. Then when it comes to Alejandro Garnacho, he would prefer to remain in the Premier League, but so far there have not been any offers for Alejandro Garnacho, at least not to the best of our knowledge. Previously, Chelsea were interested, but in recent times, we've not had anything regarding Alejandro Garnacho and the move to Chelsea. Napoli were interested, in January, but looks like their priorities are still now on the striker as they continue to push to try and sign Darwin Núñez from Liverpool. And kind of thing. So then you have Tyler Malacia, who spent the second part of last season away to PSV Eindhoven, where he helped them win the Eredivisie. But PSV Eindhoven have already communicated to Manchester United that they won't be taking them up on that option to sign Tyler Malacia permanently. So we do not know what's going to happen there. At least openly, there's not been any suitors as of yet. So, and yet United cannot just go knocking on doors of clubs and say, we have this list of 5 players. Is there any of them that you'd want to sign so that we can sit on a round table for negotiations? They cannot do that because then it would put them at a disadvantage. And by the virtue of the fact that United made it open that Marcus Rashford was up for sale, Alejandro Garnacho should find a new club elsewhere. We all know the situation at Jadon Sancho. It puts them at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to negotiations for the transfer of those players. So the more the transfer window drags on, the more desperate they will become, and then likely they will get lesser fees, transfer fees for those players. Take this as assumption. If let's say the transfer window closes on the 31st of August or maybe 1st of September, depending, what would that essentially mean? If those players were still to be under Manchester United by, let's say, the 15th of August, when the Premier League officially kicks off, on that Friday night when Liverpool play AFC Bournemouth at Anfield, then United will increasingly be under pressure, to try and move on those players. Remember, they're on very high wages, and yet the United are trying to reduce their wage bill. So you bringing in more players, you are piling more pressure on that wage bill before you even move on the players that you want to move on. So it becomes a bit difficult. So Man United, while all your reasons, or Man United fans, while all your reasons are valid, it goes without saying that you're going to have to be a little patient with your club, especially with the transfer dealings. The advantage for you, and I'll keep mentioning this, is that next season you're only going to be taking part in literally one major competition. That's the Premier League, because the Carabao Cup begins a little later, and then, or you come in at a later stage. Then the FA Cup does not begin until January. So your focus is going to be on the Premier League, while the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, all these teams that you're looking at in comparison are going to be playing in the UEFA Champions League. So they have that to think about. And remember, the UEFA Champions League went from 6 games at the group stages to 8 games. And then possibly, if you do not finish within the top 8, you have another 2 games to play in between in the playoffs and determine the round of 16 and that kind of thing. So really, while it is important, especially for the manager, to get all his signings in and try to coach these players into his system so that he's good and ready to go at the start of the season, because you kick off the season with a game at Old Trafford on Super Sunday against last season's runners-up in Arsenal, which is never an easy game, even though you always, oftentimes, the better side when you're at Old Trafford. So it doesn't come any easier. So we just have to wait and see how United behave, but they continue, really, really continue. Let's wait and see how you will behave in as far as the transfer window is concerned in getting Ruben Amorim those players. Now, in Manchester United's negotiations with Juventus for Jadon Sancho, names like Dusan Vlahovic have been mentioned as part of a potential swap deal to lessen the transfer fees that Juventus have to pay. Douglas Luiz, the 27-year-old Brazilian international who formerly played at Aston Villa, has been mentioned in the same breadth or line. Then there was another player that was being mentioned. His name has unfortunately gone off my fingertips, but there's that bit of consideration. But let's wait and see. If actually, then we all know that United are interested in signing Oli Watkins. My recommendation had been that Arsenal need 2 strikers in this transfer window, and if they were to sign Benjamin Sesko, which is increasingly looking unlikely, maybe they could make a move for Oli Watkins. But Man United are seriously interested in signing Oli Watkins. What has come to light in recent days is that Man United could make a move for the free agent in Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not a bad player, if we are being honest, but his injury history is where you need to sign him as your number 3 striker, not your number 2, depending on what competitions you're playing in. But for Manchester United, I would understand. Like I said, they'll be majorly playing in the Premier League. So anyways, guys, here's some of the latest transfer gossip and speculation from some of your clubs. We'll kick off with Manchester United. Manchester United are making a move to sign English striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin at 28, who is a free agent after leaving Everton at the end of his current contract. That's according to The Sun. Juventus are stepping up their efforts to sign Jadon Sancho from Man United and could offer a swap deal with Brazil midfielder Douglas Luiz moving in the other direction. Now, if I'm Manchester United, I think I would take up Juventus on this because that's according to Corriere dello Sport. I think I would take up Juventus on that deal because one, you have Casemiro who has 1 year left for his current contract, so that means in about a year's time, if you manage to retain him, or if you can move him on, then you even move him on. But I think Douglas Luiz at the age of 27, having already played in the Premier League and he was quite successful. I remember before he moved to Juventus, Arsenal had wanted to sign him during that 2023-2024 season in January. And then that deal did not go through. And I think that's around the same time he renewed his contract and he ended up going at Juventus. So there's that. Me, I would consider it really. Provided we can agree on personal terms on his wages. Then Juventus are also interested in signing 28-year-old Mali midfielder Yves Bissouma from Tottenham Hotspurs this summer. Yves Bissouma is one of those very, very good players who Tottenham signed from Brighton for I think about 25 million pounds. But let's say he's blown hot and cold. In Ange Postecoglou's debut season, he was really looking very, very good. But in last season, he didn't really look as good. So Rodrigo Bentancur was a much better player in that midfield. So anyways, let's wait and see. But that's according to La Gazzetta dello Sport in Italy. Manchester United forward, that's Marcus Rashford and his fellow Englishman, Jack Grealish, who is 29 years of age, by the way, could all be allowed to leave for 40 million pounds each this summer. Now, let me ask, if you, and this is a big if you're a Premier League club, what would entice you to pay 40 million pounds for Jack Grealish? Honestly, given what he has displayed over the last 2 seasons at Manchester City, ever since they won the treble in 2023, I do not think he's been the same player. Of course, that maybe part of it has to do with the amount of game time he's been accorded, because I think during the 2023-2024 season, when Man City won their 4th consecutive Premier League title, he had about 10 Premier League starts only. And then last season, those were reduced to about 7 or 6. So what really tempts you to pay 40 million pounds for a 29-year-old who has fallen so down the pecking order at Manchester City that they no longer want him? Then the other issue is going to be a discussion over his wages, because he's earning 300 grand at Manchester City, still has 2 years left to his contract, and maybe if he's really that desperate to leave Man City because he wants game time, because it's going to be a World Cup season, because after the season we'll go for the FIFA World Cup that will be played in USA, Canada and Mexico. So majority of these players want guaranteed game time so that possibly they can be summoned for their respective country squads for the FIFA World Cup. So maybe, but I do not think I would be inclined, if I was a Premier League club, to pay up to 40 million pounds for Jack Grealish. Maybe 25 million pounds, possibly about that, but 25 around there, with maybe some bit of add-ons based on achievable add-ons. Then Barcelona, though, are set to hold talks with Manchester United in the coming days over a deal to sign Rashford. We've spoken about that. PSG manager Luis Enrique says he has no doubt French winger Bradley Barcola will be staying at the club, despite Bayern Munich showing interest in the 22-year-old. That's according to Cole. Yeah, he did say they want him to stay. He's a very, very integral part. And by the way, he wouldn't come cheap, because I think they signed him from Olympique Lyon for about 45 million euros. So since they are not desperate to sell, he wouldn't come cheap. Then Al Nassr have held initial talks with Real Madrid forward Rodrigo Goes, who has been a target for several Premier League clubs. That's according to Sacha Tavorili in French. So now, apparently, Rodrigo Goes told his Saudi Pro League suitors in no specific terms that his preference would be to move to the Premier League and particularly Arsenal if he were to leave Real Madrid. That's according to reports that did come in from Spain. Yes, that we got from Spain. So then, okay, maybe we'll find time and speak about that. But let's conclude with those transfer gossip and speculation. Then Chelsea, sorry, excuse me, former Italian striker Mario Balotelli, 34, is attracting interest from Major League Soccer and Liga MX following his departure from Genoa. Now, why would you sign Balotelli? Why would you invite chaos within your squad? But anyway, maybe there's a decent player still in there. Jose Mourinho has very interesting conversations about Mario Balotelli. Chelsea have told Manchester United they will have to pay £35 million if they want to sign French forward Christopher Nkunku, still only 27 years of age. Tottenham were among the other clubs interested in the services of Christopher Nkunku. Then Chelsea are also monitoring the situation of England under-21 forward Ethan Nwaneri. That one will discuss about as discussions over a new contract with Arsenal continue. Then South Korean forward Son Heung-min, 32, is set to turn down a move to Los Angeles FC despite being open to a move away from Tottenham this summer. Now, Son Heung-min has interest from Turkey, I think particularly Fenerbahce, and also some Saudi Pro League clubs would be interested in signing. Cedric says, I wouldn't pay. I think he was mentioned, he gave that comment in response to my submission on Jack Grealish. But thank you for that comment as well. Then Sunderland are in advanced talks with Club Brugge over a deal to sign 20-year-old winger Chamsden Tabi, who was born in Belgium but has chosen to represent Morocco. Then Burnley and Leeds are interested in United States and Norwich forward Josh Sargent, 25, while an offer from German club Wolfsburg was below the £16 million valuation. But Are you guys able to hear me? Or I lost sound. I lost sound. My microphone went out of battery. Apologies on that. Apologies on that. But I was explaining the managerial changes that have happened uh, in Italy and in the Saudi Pro League. But for purposes of lost volume, I'll go over them. We'll start at AC Milan. AC Milan, they let go of Francesco Conceição, who was their manager formerly at FC Porto, and replaced him with their former manager in Massimiliano Allegri, who was sacked sometime last season at Juventus. Then we went to Fiorentina. Now, sorry, we went to Parma because the current Inter Milan manager in Christian Chivu was at Parma. So when he left Parma, Parma hired Carlos Cuesta, who was an assistant manager. Mic issues, is it on my side alone or others too? No. My microphone ran out of battery and I had to swap. So let me know if you can hear me once again. But I know we had lost sound for a bit of time there. But thanks for being alert to that situation. So, anyways, so Cuesta from Arsenal, he was the second assistant to Mikel Arteta, went to Parma. Then Gian Piero Gasperini left Atlanta after 9 years to join AC Roma. And at Atlanta, they've hired Ivan Juricic. Now, Ivan Juricic, after Roma sacked Daniel De Rossi, they replaced him with Ivan Juricic. When things did not work out, they sacked him and brought Claudio Ranieri as an interim, and Vaso Martin was sacked at Southampton, and he was replaced by Ivan Juricic at Southampton, where we all know he did not even complete the season as soon as they were relegated. I think after being beaten by Tottenham Hotspurs by 3-1, was it? Or West Ham? I think Tottenham Hotspurs. He left Southampton, so he's the one that has been hired at Atlanta. Then in the Saudi Pro League, Stefano Pioli, a former AC Milan manager who guided them to the Scudetto in 2022, has left Al Nassr as the head coach there. He's going to be the next manager at Fiorentina. Now, when he left Al Nassr appointed George Jesus. Now, last season, George Jesus was the manager at Al Hilal, where he left, and they replaced him with Simone Inzaghi, who left Inter Milan. So that's been sort of the chain of events when it came to managerial changes in as far as those teams are concerned. But anyways, there's that. We've spoken about Tottenham's interest in Mohamed Kudus. We've spoken about the situation with Ethan Nenidi. Maybe the other thing I wanted to speak about was Jamal Musiala. Unfortunately for him, he was having his first start for Bayern Munich, I think in like 3 months, and then he suffered a broken leg, which is really, really sad. Really sad for him. He will be out for many, many months. Speculation has it that it could be 4 to 5 months, but possibly more than that, because he suffered a broken leg. And when he clashed with Gianluigi Donnarumma. Oh, you're saying still no sound? You're saying still no sound? Cedric, kindly maybe disconnect and reconnect again, because when I test the sound on my end, we are good on sound. We are good on sound. Maybe you need to refresh your feed. But when I test on my end, they sound. They sound. Okay, good. So that's been the chain of events, guys. So I was speaking about Jamal Musiala. It's really not. It wasn't good. I mean, I watched that scenario a couple of times, but every moment I reach that point where the Gianluigi Donnarumma clashes with him, I almost stand away, because it did remind me of the situation of Eduardo Arasilva when he was still playing for Arsenal. I do not know if Arsenal fans do remember that scenario, but I'm sure many do. Then I think it was Ryan Shawcross on his hard tackle on Aaron Ramsey, Arsenal versus Stoke City. Because those incidents happened, I think, in two subsequent seasons for Arsenal. Then, so Jamal Musiala broke his left fibula and damaged several ligaments. That's according to Bleed in German. And so he will be out for 4 to 5 months. That's the expectation. Then the other managerial change is to do with, you remember, former Chelsea manager, former FC Porto manager, ex-Chelsea, as well as Tottenham Hotspurs, as well as, I think, CSK Moscow. No, Zenit St. Petersburg. Andre Villas-Boas. He is the president of AFC Porto now. He has appointed Francesco Farioli as their new manager. That's at FC Porto. Farioli was at Ajax last season. Now, while he's a very, very interesting manager, unfortunately for him, he sort of squandered the Dutch Eredivisie title, and Ajax lost it to PSV Eindhoven, who they had been ahead of by 9 points at some point. So I think, was it with about 5 games or 6 games left to play when they were ahead of them by 9 points, and he squandered that. So he chose to step down at Ajax, and he has now joined FC Porto. That's Francesco Farioli. Yes, that's the manager. Then what else have we not discussed in regards? Then yes, Ola Aina has signed a new contract with Nottingham Forest until June 2028. He joined Nottingham Forest in 2023 as a free agent, and it's worked out perfectly well for them. That's Ola Aina. Then Crystal Palace are close to signing Bona Sosa from Ajax, the 27-year-old Croatian left back. Was granted permission by Ajax to fly into England for his medicals. So the fee is around £2 million. So that deal is equally on. Looks like Crystal Palace won't be signing Ben Chilwell on a permanent basis from Chelsea. I thought after his loan spell they could look to make that move more permanent, but let's wait and see whether it will be firmed up. So Chelsea are not accepting any loan proposals for Leslie Ugochukwu as priority is a permanent sale. Valencia and more clubs are interested, but Chelsea say are not taking any loan move. Apparently, there is a Premier League club that is interested, but it's unnamed at the moment. We will keep tabs on that situation and see how it does develop during the course of possibly this summer. Then what else? Is there anything we missed? I do not think. On my side, on all the talking points that I had, I think we've exhausted. Maybe Barcelona, completing the signing of Ronnie Badge there. So that deal is as good as done. Ronnie Badge. It's only a few €2 million. Now, my challenge with Barcelona is they keep signing players and yet they struggle to register players. I understand the imagination, the desire for players to play for Barcelona, but I mean they keep going to the wrong place. Anyway, John Duran did complete his loan move on a 1-year loan move from Al Nassr to Fenerbahce. That deal is as good as done. So yeah. Anyways, guys, that's it for me today. Let's speak again tomorrow morning. It's been a pleasure having you for the last 1.5 hours. My parting shots will be, if you're interested in learning digital skills like web design, cybersecurity, and coding, then do not forget to check out our friends at Ebo State. They are based in Kansanga, Kampala. They do offer online training sessions as well as in-person training sessions, and they help their trainees find jobs in the dynamic digital world post-training. So you do qualify for a 5% discount if you do take them up on that offer. I'll leave their link down in the description so that you can check them out at your most ideal time. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you guys. I wish to say thank you so much, Cedric, for being with us tonight. Thank you so much for your input in today's discussion. Thank you so much, Nalumansi. Thank you so much, Christine Kosi, for being with us. Thank you so much, Vishal Gavandi, and all the lovely people of India. Thank you so much, Segun Oloye Ni, from I think Nigeria, possibly. Thank you so much. Who? Then Blue Dude, thank you. Avandi Gwada, thank you so much. And every single one of you that managed to chip in for tonight's broadcast. It was a pleasure being with you. Let's link up tomorrow. But do not please go under the channel, under the videos section, and watch all that new content that there is. And there's a video, coming out tomorrow morning about Noni Madueke. And then also check out, go under the short section and watch those clips. Usually 2 minutes, 3 minutes, thereabout, and watch them. Usually we do provide some updates under that section that tend to summarize certain issues that we then get to expound on here when we do come for the live sessions. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure being with you. Have yourselves a blessed new week ahead. Do not forget, on Tuesday we'll be back for the semi-finals of the FIFA Club World Cup. Chelsea up against Fluminense. Fluminense have, former Chelsea player and PSG star defender Thiago Silva. Then Real Madrid have their date with PSG. I think that's going to be one of the most interesting games that we will get to watch in this tournament, just as much as PSG versus Bayern Munich was. So we do look forward to those. I think that one will be on Wednesday. So yeah, until the tournament climaxes or next Sunday for the finals. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure. Have yourselves a wonderful new week ahead. I wish you the very best. See you. Bye bye.